I did my video project on antitrust and monopolies. One of the biggest antitrust cases in the history of the United States is the Standard Oil Company versus the United States. In 1911, Standard Oil was accused of being a monopoly in the petroleum industry, and they purposely got rid of competition. The Standard Oil Company started in its growth by having better technology than other companies. They eliminated their competition by coming to a town and dropping their price below their competitors' price so the consumers would buy their oil instead of their competitors. They could afford to do this because they knew it was only a matter of time before their competitors would either go out of business or be bought out by them. They also made threats to suppliers and distributors if they did business with their competitors. Standard Oil pretty much bought out all of the other oil refining companies. In 1870, Standard Oil was producing around 10% of America's oil. This doubled to 20% quickly because of eliminating competition in the Cleveland area. The court ruled that Standard Oil Company was in violation of Sherman Antitrust Act, which resulted in the breakup of Standard Oil Company into 34 separate companies, but some of them combined back into what is today Exxon and Mobil. Another big antitrust case was American Tobacco Company versus the United States. American Tobacco Company was attempting to monopolize the market of tobacco. The tobacco industry quickly took off with the invention of cigarette machines, which could roll 100,000 cigarettes a day compared to an experienced cigarette roller who could roll 2,000 a day. This drove the prices down tremendously. How the American Tobacco Company was formed was the top 5 cigarette companies merged together. Between 1890 and 1907, the American Tobacco Company purchased an estimated 250 firms. It was indicted in 1907 and forced to split up on the same day as Standard Oil was forced to split up in 1911. The court's decision was that they were breaking the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890, and the American Tobacco Company was split into 4 separate companies, creating an oligopoly. In 1938, 3 out of 4 of these companies were found guilty of doing monopolistic practices again. The decision did not, however, end the monopolistic practices of cigarette machines or manufacturers who are inevitably tied to tobacco companies. A third antitrust case that was very big in the United States was United States versus Microsoft. Microsoft was accused of trying to be a monopoly in the PC market by having legal and technical restrictions on PC manufacturers. The main issue was Microsoft trying to bundle its Internet Explorer with Windows, which restricted the market for other browsers. Microsoft tried to defend itself by saying that it was innovating and that competition was making them do this, and that it was unavoidable to not bundle them. But the competitors argued that Internet Explorer was a separate product and that should not be bundled with Windows because Internet Explorer was also available on Mac OS. As a result, the judgment was that Microsoft would be split into 2 different units, one that just focuses on operating systems and one that focuses on other software components. After the trial, however, Microsoft did not change its behavior and continued to bully its competitors and innovate. There are a few reasons why monopolies are bad for the economy of a country. Monopolies stop markets from setting a price, and they prevent free trade. Monopolies can set their own price to whoever they want because there's no competition for the consumers to buy from, so they are forced to buy from the monopoly company regardless of what the price is. The consumers are at the mercy of the monopoly in terms of the price they pay for the product the monopoly company produces. The monopoly can also decide to reduce the quality of their product because, again, since they're alone in the market, the consumers must buy the product either way. So then the monopoly can save money as a result of reducing the quality of the product. Another reason monopolies should be broken up is they prevent more innovation from happening. Innovation is driven by competition, and there's no competition in a market where there is a monopoly. Monopolies also can create inflation because they can easily raise prices on consumers so they can have a bigger profit margin. In my opinion, I think we should break up monopolies that harm both consumers and competitors. We should do this because the consumers drive the economy, and if the consumer is struggling, most likely the economy is struggling. Also, competitors, like I said earlier, drives innovation and competition, which is good for the consumer because it drives prices lower. When the competitors are harmed, it means the company that is hurting them is trying to become a monopoly by possibly collecting scarce resources and hoarding them, buying out the competition, or using property rights. They can also try to make the smaller companies go bankrupt or near bankrupt by lowering their prices so more consumers buy their product instead of the smaller company's product. Then all they must do is buy out that dying small company. Monopolies harm the overall production in the market because if there was more than one company in the market, then there would be more production because the competition would drive the companies to produce more and better quality products. When there is not a monopoly, there typically is better quality products because the companies are competing against each other to get the consumer's attention to buy their product. And they want to buy a reliable product too. In some cases, with American monopolies, they can be beneficial to America when competing in the global market. They can attract new consumers from other countries by brand recognition, and then that country will trade with that American company, or they will sell their product in that country, creating a new market of consumers for the American monopoly to profit off of. This will also increase America's GDP, and we would be exporting more product rather than importing more, which is also good. Some monopolies are also good. For an example of a good monopoly or a needed monopoly is an electric company, because it is constantly needed and a necessity, and would be too expensive in a competitive market. Another example is drug companies can be monopolies under federal laws because they are awarded patents. Drug companies need to be allowed to innovate because otherwise we wouldn't have breakthrough drugs that save us from diseases. Google has almost a full monopoly on the search engine market with 86% of the market control. Amazon started out as just an online bookstore and has spread into being a supermarket store to selling prescription drugs now online. If these firms were broken up, they would most definitely benefit the consumers because it would open up the market to more competition and innovation. The way that these huge companies could be broken up is undoing their recent mergers that they have made and making them separate companies that are not associated with Amazon or Google. For example, separating Whole Foods from Amazon or separating Waze from Google. They could also break up Google's other sections like Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Drive, or Google Chrome. This would make it harder for Google to continue being an almost monopoly. As for Amazon, the government could do the same thing by breaking up Amazon into its parts, like Amazon Music, Amazon Prime Videos, or Amazon Web Services. I think the economy would take a hit if these companies were broken up a bit, but I think it would be a situation where it's short-term pain for long-term gain. Overall, monopolies have pros and cons, and in some situations they are needed, but most situations they only hurt the overall economy, and benefit the company that is trying to monopolize. The consumers and competitors both get hurt when there is a monopoly controlling a market. But on the other hand, most people don't like more regulation on the economy, so sometimes monopolies will just end up happening. And this is my works cited.